£267,000. I mean, by any measure, in any job, for 3 days a week, let alone when it's public money. I mean, that's outrageous, isn't it?
Well, it is outrageous. Am I surprised? No, I'm not surprised. It's ironic she feels the need to write a book about privilege when you're earning over £250,000 for a part-time role. The problem with the BBC, Mercy, is that they've just got so much cash. For some reason, they have no idea or concept about what that role would be, how it would be remunerated in the commercial sector. I know this myself. I personally, I was a broadcaster, a radio presenter for 16 years. I was a journalist for 4 years before that. They could have easily paid me 30 grand a year less, and I'd have still driven to work to do my job. £267,000. It's an eye-watering amount of money, but also what it does, Mercy, it's a kick in the teeth for licence fee payers, in my view, who have a problem with the BBC's push for diversity. Why should the BBC pay £750,000 to somebody for a role where they believe it's already overly diverse? And that's where I think it's really going to stick in the licence fee payers' craw. How much a head of diversity would get at ITV, I don't know, but they just pay these crazy figures.
And what I was struck by is that it's not that they have a whole diversity team. So this is obviously just the salary for their director of creative diversity. But then, you know, when I did some digging, they've got a head of creative diversity partner and journalist, creative diversity partner, another creative diversity partner, another creative diversity partner, a creative diversity specialist, a creative diversity business coordinator. I mean, what on earth? What are these people do? Why do you need so many people to essentially just send round an email to HR now and again saying, guys, you need to hire a few more ethnic minority faces?
Well, it's maddening, but where I worked in Birmingham, Mercy, I worked for BBC Radio WM, and that station was once a titan of local radio broadcasting. We had such a great, loyal listenership. And because of a woke management team over the last 6 or 7 years, that station has been ruined. And I can demonstrate it because the figures have gone down and down over the last 6 audience sweeps. And they've doubled down with their stupidity. And just to compare again why the BBC is different to commercial, if that was a commercial, like for example, GBNews has had a rocky start, and we know about the audience figures, and management have reacted, and now the audience figures are on a skyrocketing upward trajectory. Now, that's because you have commercial pressures. The BBC has just got so much dough, it doesn't have those commercial pressures. Now, in my view, any management of any radio station that continues to spiral downwards in such dramatic fashion, you know, that management team would have been booted out, the schedule would have been booted out, somebody would have been parachuted in, but they just simply do not have that pressure. And as far as diversity is concerned, I left the BBC a couple of months ago, and my boss said the lineup was too old and too white. I'm a 50-year-old white guy. The breakfast show presenter was a 55-year-old white guy. There was a 48-year-old woman and a 6-year-old white guy. Okay, so as far as the audience are concerned, I don't think, Mercy, they give a damn about the colour of somebody's skin behind the microphone. It's the content of what comes out of their mouth that's important. And that is now being gradually reflected in a much younger, diverse lineup. And I'm not on Twitter. I'm one of the few radio broadcasters in the world who refuses to be on Twitter, but I do every now and again look at people's Twitter bios, and it's now full of people with their preferred pronouns, which gives you an idea of the direction the station's going.
It is that the BBC seems to have turned in such a, for want of a better word, woke direction. Is it not the case that the BBC, being the national broadcaster, being funded in effect by a tax, has a special responsibility to not play identity politics when it comes to broadcasting?
Tom, I'll give you an example. I can only speak from my own station's perspective. I can speak from one other radio station's perspective. 20 years ago, when I left university and I went to be a broadcast journalist at BBC Coventry in Warwickshire, I was writing up a press release. West Midlands police were on the lookout for 2 street robbers who were black. So we had baseball caps, white trainers, hood, whatever. And I wrote up the press release, and I was told to immediately take the word black out of it. Now, I think if you were to, and I said why, and the fella said it's racist. I was only there for 18 months at that station. And I think if you were to ask West Midlands Police, would they want the word black in that? I think they would say they would rather, and taking it out would be counterproductive because people would assume they were looking for two white lads. So that was 20 odd years ago. 6 years ago, just to show how woke this station WM has gone. I'll give you a great example. Victoria Wood died within a fortnight of Ronnie Corbett, both comedians. In my view, one is a titan of comedy. The other one was relatively unfunny, but she happened to be a female. And we were told by our station editor, female station editor, who, card-carrying feminist by her own admission, was that the station had to go massive on Victoria Wood. So from breakfast to drive time, every hour we had to reflect the loss of Victoria Wood. So we got experts in, we played a load of material. Ronnie Corbett died, and he was the third or fourth story down the news headlines. Another example, Gary Lineker, he's one man's patron saint of economic migrants, could be another man's out-of-touch multimillionaire paid far too much by the BBC just to be a football pundit. 6-7 months ago, when he said he was going to take in an asylum seeker or an economic migrant, who knows? And I wanted to talk on a simple question: would you allow an asylum seeker into your home? And I was told under no uncertain terms that I wasn't to do that because of the bigoted racist calls that they anticipated flooding in. And honestly, I was banging my head against the brick wall. And I kept on saying, these working class white people, it doesn't make them racist, just to hold a view that may be different from your left-leaning, liberal, ideological perspective in life. And unfortunately, the BBC, there's a lot of hard-working, honest, good people, but they're just in the wrong job.
A lot of those good-working, hard-working, decent people, former colleagues of yours, have sadly been losing their jobs over the last year or so. Is there a great sense of resentment in an organisation when people like June Sarpong are on £250,000 a year, when Gary Lineker is earning as much as he does, that actually it's sometimes the lower rung people that are forced out, and the people at the top who sit on the diversity boards or occasionally commentate about some football earn absolute shedloads?
Yeah, it is. The disparity is a disgrace. I can't just remove myself, Tom, from the 267 grand that June Sarpong was paid to push a diverse agenda in a working environment which I think already disproportionately pushes a diverse agenda. It's just astonishing. And whenever the licence fee question rears its head or ugly head, you use examples like this: 267 large for 3 days a week. Gary Lineker's 1.2 mil or whatever it is for a weekend during the football season. And you completely understand why the broadcast journalists probably earning 30 grand, really working their socks off in the newsroom. Dominic Cummings, during the parliamentary inquiry, said number 10 were lions led by donkeys. And unfortunately, in my experience, at very top of local radio and on a regional level, it's unfortunate, and the audience figures back me up. Unfortunately, it's the same.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.